Medical misogyny is the term used when women's health issues, such as premenstrual dysphoric disorder, endometriosis and adenomyosis, are overlooked, dismissed and not taken seriously by medical professionals. Here in the UK, countless women are waiting years for diagnosis. These delays can lead to missed education, stalled careers, strained relationships and lost chances to have families. I'm meeting Kelly Swingler, who was finally diagnosed with adenomyosis just last month at the age of 44. She says she was dismissed and unheard by medical professionals for nearly 3 decades. Endometriosis is far more spoken about. People seem to have a better awareness of that. Yeah. But adenomyosis, on the other hand, I only heard about a couple of years ago.
I hadn't even heard of it until last year, and that was from an Instagram feed. It feels like the very, very lowest point of my pelvis, from there all the way kind of around my pelvis into my lower back. There is just like it's like a constant throbbing, and then it feels like I'm literally being punched in this lower part of my pelvis repeatedly. So my painful period started at 10. Yeah. I was then diagnosed with endometriosis 23 years later, when I was 32, and then it's taken from 32 to 44, so another 12 years to get an adenomyosis.
Christ.
But I just knew internally that this was not right, and I've continued to speak to doctors, and I've just known that things were wrong. One of the consultants that I saw, I'm very lucky that I do feel lucky that I've been able to see 2 whilst this has been going on. But I felt totally and utterly dismissed by one of them. Yeah. And even talking to her about the impact that this is having on my life, the impact it's having on my business, my work, my relationships, my income, my ability to get out of bed, I just felt utterly dismissed. She was just, well, if it starts to impact your mental health, you just need to, go and speak to your GP and see if they'll give you some antidepressants.
34 years of being ignored, dismissed, conditioned to believe you just couldn't deal with something that every other woman was dealing with. Yeah. Made to feel small. I'm really sorry. I don't understand now why you are so passionate about this. This is something that's affecting, not just us, but if you think of your mum and you think of your grandma, it's generations of women.
Yeah, yeah, and we have just repeatedly been dismissed, and it needs to stop.
I'm so sorry, I got so sad. Can I have a tissue, please?
I feel angry and rageful and let down, and I want to use my voice and my experience to help as many women as I can, because we cannot continue to do this.
A Good Morning Britain survey has revealed that 3 in 5 women report having experienced reproductive health conditions. Of those women, half have felt dismissed or not taken seriously by medical professionals regarding these reproductive health conditions. Yeah. I've been speaking to Rachel, who suspects she has premenstrual dysphoric disorder, a condition that I have. She's been waiting over 2 years for a formal diagnosis.
So about a week and a half before my period, I get really bad brain fog. I'm really tired, I struggle to sleep, and that's with great sleep hygiene and everything, but I just get terrible insomnia. I'm hungry all the time, I want to eat everything, and I get a really low mood. So just kind of, even if nothing is wrong, it feels like the world is ending for about a week, and that can be quite scary when you don't really understand what it is.
I feel like I know that PMDD can manifest itself different in anyone who's experiencing it, but a lot of your symptoms actually mirror mine.
Oh wow.
I know. The brain fog I find particularly debilitating.
So around the age of 18, just a couple of years after my period started, I began getting really bad PMDD symptoms. I had migraines, I had really terrible cramps, I had a low mood, and because of the physical symptoms I had to miss university sometimes, miss lectures, miss work. I even got carried out of lectures a couple of times because I was in so much pain I couldn't walk, and some of my friends had to carry me home. So it had a really negative impact, but I didn't know what it was, I didn't know what to call it. And I didn't get much help when I went to the doctors.
As it's all far too familiar.
Yeah.
Which just makes me
which makes me a bit emotional. But also, it's just lazy. It's frustrating to me that there's no real answer, there's no real research, there's no real duty of care for PMDD. You're just offered a pill.
A friend sent me an article, and then I saw like some TikTok videos, and I was like, this sounds like what I have. Yeah. And it was a relief to know that there's a name for this. It's a thing. But I feel that I'm on my own. I don't get much, medical support. I'm trying to manage my symptoms and figure it out. But something that makes you, suicidal once a month, that makes you, unable to sleep properly, to think clearly, to function. And there's physical and there's mental symptoms, and it's really serious. There needs to be more research into it. It can't be that, we just say, oh, there's no magic pill, deal with it. Then there must be something. But ultimately, half of the population gets periods, and the other half has, has to have interactions with women. You've got mothers or wives or daughters or female employees, and it's really important that everyone understands it and we have better education.
1 in 3 women say their longest reproductive health issue took over a year to be diagnosed. Manika, from my hometown in Newcastle, waited over 10 years for her endometriosis diagnosis. Aged 27, she feels like she has been repeatedly dismissed by medical professionals. And sadly, this is common amongst young women, with 3/4 of women aged 18 to 34 experiencing feelings of dismissal.
So I actually first noticed symptoms at around the age of 11. So my first period was debilitating, and the pain just completely wiped me out. But I obviously didn't understand that I was dealing with endometriosis at that point. I went to the doctors at around 17, and that was the first time they mentioned endometriosis in that conversation, and that's when I understood that that type of pain wasn't normal. So 10 years ago, I was actually told the only way to deal with it is through birth control. So for the past 10 years, I was going through trial and error and trialing different birth controls with varying benefits and a lot with heavy side effects. I think specifically with the experience I had with the GP, there were so many opportunities for her to actually send me for a scan. And I was actually told, we're going to send you for a scan, and that never materialised. And then also, throughout the time, there was language that was used that convinced me that it was in my head, and I started not to believe myself and not to believe my physical symptoms. It was so frustrating, it was devastating, and it did push me to the point of my mental health really suffering, and that makes me emotional to think about and to go back to. But actually, thinking back on it now, I was pushed so far mentally, and in the back of my mind I was thinking, I can't show that mentally I'm struggling, because
that's just going to feed into their narrative.
Because they think I'm mentally struggling, and then my physical health is absolutely not going to be taken seriously. Because my symptoms have recently become so severe, I would say longer than the past year, and searching for help with that, having to leave work initially, but continuing to be out of work, not being able to live independently, and relying on my family for so much support, not being able to date or really do the social things that a normal woman in their 20s would be able to do, and having my mobility seriously affected. It's just impacted so many areas of my life.
But you internalise that, don't you? And you think, I am too emotional, and maybe this is all in my head, and maybe it is just a period, and everyone else can cope, and I'm the weak one, and before you know it, you're quiet again. What would you like to see happen?
I think, first of all, there needs to be investment in women's health, a greater understanding of women's pain and how to deal with that going forward, and how to take it seriously, so when somebody does come in showing symptoms of endometriosis, they know how to action that.
Yeah. Meeting these 3 women has been incredibly illuminating. Hearing their stories, listening to the things they've gone through, their struggles, their strength. It has been hard, because I know these aren't isolated incidents. I know that this is something that is happening up and down the country to loads of women.
Loads of women who, unlike me, didn't have the luxury to go private, you know, and get the answers they were after. These women are being ignored, gaslit, almost convinced that their conditions are psychological rather than physical, even though they know in their heart of hearts what is really going on. Their quality of life is being affected. They're missing out on some amazing things, living their life, meeting new people, falling in love, all the things that everyone deserves. And I think it's a tragedy, and I think it's heartbreaking, and I think something has to change.